Okay, so the Freedmen's Bureau is government's help for freed slaves. Now, you free the slaves, what are you going to do? The United States government freed the slaves, and this was the organization, because it's a bureau, it's a government organization, to help the freed men, the people that were freed through the Emancipation Proclamation, through eventually the 13th Amendment, etc. So the Freedmen's Bureau didn't last that long. It doesn't even last the entirety of Reconstruction, but it did operate from March 3rd, 1865 to July of 1872. Okay, so the Freedmen's Bureau was established in 1865 by Congress to help millions of former black slaves and poor whites in the South in the aftermath of the Civil War. The Freedmen's Bureau provided food, housing, and medical aid. It established schools, and it offered legal assistance to the people it helped. It also attempted to settle former slaves on land that was confiscated, taken, or abandoned during the Civil War. However, the Bureau was prevented from fully carrying out its programs due to a shortage of funds and personnel, along with the politics of race and Reconstruction as a whole. The Freedmen's Bureau was established by an act of Congress on March 3, 1865, 2 months before Robert E. Lee surrendered to Union Ulysses S. Grant at the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia, which, by the way, effectively ended the Civil War. The Freedmen's Bureau was organized into districts covering the 11 former rebel states, the border states of Maryland, Kentucky, and West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. Each one of those districts was headed by an assistant commissioner. So I know you'll have a question that talks about which one of these places doesn't fit into this. You need to look at, the border states of Maryland, Kentucky, West Virginia, Washington, D.C., and the 11 former rebel states. One of your answer choices isn't one of those. Okay. So the Bureau's achievements varied from one location to another and from one agent to the next. An agent would be somebody who works for the Bureau. So one Bureau agent might be more helpful than the next. Over its course of existence, the Bureau was underfunded, didn't have enough money, understaffed, didn't have enough people, with just 900 agents at its peak. 900 people to help run the Bureau for the entirety of the South. Bureau agents who acted essentially as social workers were frequently the only federal representatives in Southern communities. They were subjected to ridicule and violence from whites, including terrorist organizations such as the Ku Klux Klan, who viewed the agents of the Freedmen's Bureaus as interfering in local affairs by trying to assist blacks. While some agents were corrupt, others were hardworking and brave people who made significant contributions helping the lives of those in the South after the Civil War. During its years of operation, the Freedmen's Bureau fed millions of people, built hospitals, and provided medical aid, negotiated labor contracts for ex-slaves, helping them to get jobs that were hopefully fair, and settled labor disputes. It also helped former slaves legally marry and locate lost relatives and assist black veterans, people who had fought in the Civil War that were black. They were told that they would be given certain things, and it was up to the Freedmen's Bureau to make sure they got those things. The Bureau was also instrumental in building thousands of schools for blacks and helped to found such colleges as Howard University in Washington, D.C., Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, and Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. The Bureau frequently worked with the American Missionary Association and private charity organizations. Additionally, the Bureau tried with little success to promote land redistribution. Redistribution would be taking land from one person and giving it to another. For instance, you had the the large landowners who owned the vast majority of land in the South, that would have been the plantation owners, due to different things, the Bureau would try to take land that those slave owners owned and give some of the land to the slaves, or former slaves, now freedmen. However, most of the confiscated or abandoned Confederate land was eventually restored to the original owners, so there was little opportunity for black land ownership, which was seen as a means to success in society. If you were going to live in the South, back in those days, if you didn't own land, you were not going to be a very successful individual. It was going to be very difficult to feed your family. It was going to be very difficult to make money. So keeping the former slaves out of the realm of owning land, making sure those freedmen didn't own land, was one of the best ways to keep them less than everyone else. So, summarizing everything, the Freedmen's Bureau was established in 1865 at the end of the Civil War to help poor blacks as well as some whites in the South. The Freedmen's Bureau established schools in the South. Most of the time where I'll see STAR test questions, etc., over this topic, it usually is tied to the Freedmen's Bureau making schools. Laws against educating slaves during the Civil War meant that most ex-slaves did not know how to read and write, which is why the Freedmen's Bureau was so instrumental in creating schools. Hope you're learning, and I hope you're having fun.